Hello, listeners. Welcome to Forex with Ntombi. I am your host, Ntombi Malati. If this is your first time, I welcome you. I hope you'll enjoy it here. Please feel free to check out my previous episodes. Please check out the disclaimer, check out the trailer, and also the first episode, the introduction episode, so that you can understand what this podcast is all about and also what to expect from it. Hey there, residents of Forex with Ntombi. Welcome back. It's good to have you here. It feels so good to be here as well because I haven't done any episode in such a long time. I did mention on my previous episode the introduction to trading journal that I've been very busy. Life has been very hectic on my side, but now things are getting better and better, and I am also almost done with my online school, Forex with Ntombi School of Trading, where you can now access your short courses. The first course is almost done, which is money management course. I'll tell you more about it. I'll do an episode just dedicated to it before the release date, but it should be released by the 15th of August. Then you should be able to access it and just learn how to trade and treat your Forex account as a business. So why are we here today? Today I want us to talk about 3 psychological effects of keeping a losing trade for too long. Just to recap a bit, this podcast is all about trading psychology, right? Trading psychology to me is all about how we behave in the market. If we can fix our behavior, we can fix a lot of things. 13 years in the market have taught me that most failures are not even associated with trading strategies, but most failures in the market are associated with the behavior, how we behave in the market, our trading psychology. So I then decided to start this podcast so that I can share realistic and practical tips, of how you can do better in the market. I still struggle with voice, guys, but then you know me by now. This is how I speak, and you just need to get your headphones or earphones so that at least you can understand what I'm saying, or so that you can at least hear me better. But otherwise, there is nothing that I can do to change this voice. I'm actually embracing it, and I am just happy that I can speak. So let's get to the topic of today: 3 psychological effects of keeping a losing trade for too long. When you trade the markets, definitely you are going to have a day where you are sitting in losses. It happens. It is the nature of our business. It happens. You invest in the market, you must not always expect that you are going to get it right. Sometimes you are going to get it wrong. Sometimes it's not even about getting it wrong, because of the strategy. Sometimes it is about getting it wrong because maybe you couldn't wait for your setup. Maybe you couldn't, control yourself, but you will find yourself running a trade that is now sitting in a loss, and it happens to most of us. So that is one thing that you will need to understand, that as a trader you are going to have a trade that is sitting at a loss. Sometimes you just need to know what to do with that trade should it happen, because trading the market is not about avoiding losses. Of course, there are so many things that we can do to avoid losses, but also we do not create our own trading opportunities in the market. Sometimes we do get it wrong. It happens to most of us. But then what differentiates our winners and losers is, what is it that you do when you find yourself in this situation. So I'm just going to talk about 3 psychological effects, because my aim here is to help you behave better so that you can do better. I am honestly not interested in how you are trading in your strategies, because I know that that only forms like 5%, of what we are about, as traders. I'm only interested in making sure that your behavior is on top, is on point. So today let's talk about these 3 psychological effects. Like I've said before, the information that I share here should not be taken as any financial advice. I am just sharing my personal experiences of those people that I've taught over the years, and it's basically just tips, but these are tips that you can use and implement in your own trading. Then you can definitely just see improvement in your own trading. So the first thing that is likely to happen if you keep a losing trade for too long, you are unlikely to see other trading opportunities. You are definitely going to miss out on other trading opportunities, because if you hold on to a losing trade for too long, it really does mess up with your thinking, and it really does mess up with your mind. So obviously, let's say for instance you just entered a very bad NZD-JPY. At some point in my life, I entered a very bad NZD-JPY, yes, NZD-JPY trade, and up until today, I don't think I actually like trading NZD, because of that. I am still like holding on to that. I need to move on. I need to move on, and I need to just get over this, because like wow. But I entered a very bad trade of NZD-JPY. So you know what happens when you are holding on to a losing trade. The more you hold on to it, the more you become scared, and the more you are unlikely to see other trading opportunities. Let's say you just entered a very bad trade, NZD-JPY trade. So obviously, I'm not even going to talk about your how you manage your funds, or how whether you use stop loss or whether you don't use stop losses and stuff. I'm not going to talk about how you trade. I am just going to come and just help you with this part on how do you deal with it. If it is happening, you are now sitting in a huge loss. It doesn't have to even get to that part where the loss is now uncontrollable and it is so huge. The first thing that you need to do, of course, you need to have your own plan. When exactly do you take your losses? Like for instance, when exactly do you start getting like uncomfortable if you see a trade at a loss? That is all part of how you manage your funds, money management. That is your part. You know the part, you know how you manage your funds. But then let's say, for instance, I'm just going to make an example. Let's say you only start worrying when your trade gets to minus 30 pips. I'm just making an example, especially when you trade during high volatility. You don't want to be placing your stop loss at like 5 pips, because you are literally going to be kicked out too early in the markets. You need to be able to give your trade a fighting chance. Give your trade a fighting chance. Let it have a chance, to fight and actually, come around and make profit. Because during high volatility, it is possible for your trade to go against you, but then it comes around and then it makes you profit. So while it is still doing that, you don't want to be kicked out of the markets because you couldn't wait, or because you have set your stop loss. If you do use a stop loss, too close, then now you are being kicked out. So let's say, for instance, your exit strategy is like 30 pips, meaning you are only going to worry about losses when they reach 30 pips. Other than that, you are going to give your trade a fighting chance. You are not going to close your trade too early, because between placing a trade and taking profit, there's a waiting period. But then what you do during that period, the waiting period, it is what is going to determine whether you are winning or whether you are losing all the time in the markets. Because it is not about placing a trade now and closing it a second later. You place a trade, you must wait. You must then, what you do during that period of waiting, it is exactly what is going to determine whether you are winning or whether you are losing in the markets. So let's say 30 pips is your exit strategy. You are now sitting there, of course, self-control. This goes with your plan. Of course, if this is your plan, you must be able to stick to your plan. But I also understand that because, trading psychology, that is why we are here doing this. It is kind of like a bit difficult for us to stick to our plans. It is easy to draft a plan, but sticking to a plan requires a lot of self-discipline. If this is the area where you are still struggling, you can find an episode here, how to gain discipline, something like that, something about discipline. You can find that episode and listen to it and see if you can apply some of the tips that I shared there. So let's say, for instance, now your 30 pips has reached, and of course you are still struggling with self-discipline, and you didn't do a stop loss of 30 pips. You are just watching, and you are just telling yourself that you are going to close when it reaches 30 pips. Now it's more than 30 pips. Now your trade is sitting at around 35 pips. Of course, your trade is not going to just move from 0 pips to 35 pips in an instant. Your trade got there gradually, and you were just there watching it. So now let's say it reaches your 30 pips and you haven't closed it, and obviously you did see your trade sitting at around 20. It used to happen to me a lot. I would be watching my trade and my trade would be sitting at minus $100, for instance, and 5 minutes earlier, 15 minutes earlier, I saw this trade sitting at around minus 15, but then I didn't close this trade because I was hoping for the best. That is another thing that you need to stop doing, guys. You need to stop trading and just hoping. It's okay to hope for stuff, but I always say don't just trade and depend on hope. I mean, you can't rely on hope, when it comes to trading. You cannot rely on hope when it comes to trading. So I used to do that a lot. My trade would be sitting at minus $100. Then I'd be thinking, oh my God, my trade was sitting at minus $15. I mean, like a couple of minutes ago. Then you know what happens in your mind when you are sitting at that trade and your trade is now going south, and you did see it earlier and you actually did think about closing it, but then you didn't close for some reason. It used to happen to me a lot. I would be sitting there thinking, okay, I'm going to close this trade at minus $15, for instance. Minus $15, still I don't close my trade. Now my trade is sitting at minus 20. Still I don't close my trade. Now my trade is sitting at minus 50. Guess what? Now I'm sitting there wishing, oh my God, I wish I had closed my trade when it was at minus 20. But then I didn't close it, even when it was at minus 15. I kept hoping. Now my trade is sitting at minus 50. You know what usually happens to your mind? What usually happens to your mind? Your mind will literally refuse to close this trade at minus 50 because you have seen this trade at minus 15. So in your mind, you are going to start telling yourself that, okay, let me just wait a little bit. Let me just wait for it to reverse a bit. Then at least if I can close it at minus 30. You are now just wishing for minus 30 because minus 30 is obviously, better than closing at minus 50. But then the mind games begin. And guess what happens? You are not even focusing on whether there's a possibility for this trade, to reverse back. You are not even checking those things. You are just focusing on numbers. Very dangerous game. You are now focusing on numbers. Then your trade is sitting at minus 50. You are now wishing for at least minus 30 because you've seen it sitting at minus 20 and you've also seen it sitting at minus 50. It is now at minus 50, but you are only just hoping for minus 30. Guess what? It moves to minus 50. It moves to minus 55. Oh my God, minus 55, you can't believe it. Then eventually it gets to minus 80, it gets to minus 100. When it finally gets there, your mind totally shuts down, it shuts off, and you are no longer thinking straight. You are no longer thinking straight because you are now hating yourself for allowing this. You are now very, very, very angry at yourself for putting yourself through this because you've seen this trade sitting at minus 15, you didn't close. It was at minus 20, you didn't close. It was at minus 50, you didn't close. But instead, you hoped for, minus 30. But guess what? It went to minus 55, minus 60. It is now sitting at a whooping minus 100. When your trade gets to that stage and you were just watching it, like I said, your mind shuts off. You can't think straight and you are really angry, with yourself. You are very upset and you are just now watching and you're just hoping. That's how people get through a margin call. I used to get like countless, margin calls, every time, like weekly. I would find my account like almost weekly because I was blowing accounts week after week. This was something that was happening in my psychology because now I am sitting at this trade and I know that at some point this trade was sitting at minus 50. When all these things are now happening, you are unlikely to even look at your chart and analyze it just to check how, if there's any possibility of this trade reverse. You are not even checking those. You are just focusing on numbers. So how then can you stop, this process? Because once it gets started, it's very hard, to close a trade at minus 100 when you've seen it at minus 20 and you've actually thought about closing it, but then you didn't close it. You need to have a solid exit strategy. That is one thing that you need to have. But of course, these things also do happen even if you do have your solid exit strategy, because this has to do with self-discipline. This has to do with it has to do with self-discipline. So now you need to go back and work on that. That is why I always say your focus should not be working on strategies, but your focus should be working on yourself. Because if you work on yourself, you are going to you'll be able to stick to your trading plan, because drafting an amazing plan is easy, but then sticking to your plan is not easy. So to avoid all these psychological things happening in your head, you need to learn how to control yourself. Unfortunately, there is no magic pill. Even with my mentees, people that I've taught and people that have paid me to teach them, there is no magic pill. I can only just assist you. Okay, this is what you can do to try and develop more discipline. But then this is something that has to come from you. It is something that you will have to work on. It is something that you'll have to, sit and work on, because otherwise, with amazing strategies, whether you have amazing strategies, you have a lot of money, your startup capital is, huge, and you are starting with a huge amount of money, you are going to blow this account, because blowing an account has got less to do with your amount. It has got less to do with your strategies, but yourself. So that is the first one that you will need to be aware of, that when you are sitting at a loss, you need to keep on tapping yourself and be like, hey, your exit strategy is 30 pips, that you keep on reminding yourself. But if you don't do that, you are likely to see yourself sitting at a huge loss. And once your trade is sitting there, you are now sitting at a huge loss. You are unlikely to see other trading opportunities. If you entered a very bad NZD JPY because your aim was to sell NZD, and also remember, if you want to sell NZD because NZD is weak, it doesn't mean that NZD is equally weak across all other currencies. Maybe NZD is not too weak against JPY, which is your current pair, but then maybe NZD is actually weaker against USD. But then if you are stuck in this trade, you are not even going to see that, because you are stuck in an abusive relationship. I always say that if you are keeping a losing trade for too long, you are not different than someone who is sticking to a relationship where they are being abused, but then they just don't want to let go. You are not even going to see other people who are willing to treat you better, because you are so stuck in this relationship. So with trading as well and currencies, you must not trade currencies and expect to be loyal to your pairs. I mean, there are people who are just trading Euro USD because they're just loyal to Euro USD. They don't care whether US dollar is not too weak against Euro. They just want to trade Euro USD. You see, so there is no loyalty in trading. In trading, you do what works now. If it doesn't work now, you move on. You go and you check other currency pairs that are currently working. But then, if you are holding on to a losing trade for too long, you are unlikely to see other trading opportunities. So please be careful of that. You are sitting in a loss. You need to come back to yourself. Unfortunately, nobody can do this for you but you. You need to come back to yourself. Ask yourself, is this good for me? You close it right there. You will see. I'm sure you've been through this, a couple of times. When you close a losing trade that was keeping you on your toes, you get a huge relief. You're like, oh my God, and you can breathe. And you are like, oh, okay, now I can move on. But then if you don't close it, guess what? You don't move on, because you don't even see other people who are willing to treat you better, just like in a relationship. You are not seeing other currencies that are, there to give you profit, because you are so, holding on to this NZD JPY, which is currently abusing you. Of course, NZD JPY abused me a lot in the past. So the second one, the first one I said, you are definitely missing out on other opportunities. And the second one is you get really scared, to try again, and you get demotivated. I mean, if you keep a losing trade for too long, it demotivates you and you get really scared. So next time when you try for another currency, or when you try, even if it's not today, you are like really scared, because that thing, it sticks with you. You are stuck with it. It is stuck in your head, and thinking about it. I shared a story when I spoke about how I got a margin call, and And I was like really scared of moving numbers after that. I couldn't stand moving numbers in the petrol station. I couldn't stand moving numbers in my own microwave because, hey guys, I was so traumatized. Because it is traumatizing because we are talking about your money here. So if you are keeping your trade, losing trade for too long and you refuse to close and move on with life, you become very scared to try again. You become very, very scared to try again because every time you think about trading, you think about that, that incident. Every time you think about trading, you think about how, you blew your account and you get really, really scared. And when you are scared, guess what? You can also not see other trading opportunities because you are now operating from a place of fear. When you are fearful, you are unlikely to see trading opportunities. Number 3, you find it very hard to let go. I just shared a story about NZDJPY, guys. It happens like over 10 years ago, but I'm still like, I don't really like NZDJPY. That relationship is like ruined for life. It is because of what happened to me, and I'm like, every time I think about it, I'm like, oh, you know what, I'm not even going there. But besides that, it is just that I don't usually trade NZD because I find it very slow, besides the fact that it actually messed me up. But if it was not that, obviously I would have, gone past through that, and I would have forgiven NZD and I would be trading NZD now. But then I don't trade NZD because I just don't like it, which is also okay. You don't have to love all currencies. Like I said, there is no loyalty. If I do see an opportunity to trade NZD, I do trade NZD, but it's one of those, it's not my favorite, which is also okay because as a trader you get to form relationships kind of with currencies, but you are not loyal. Remember, know your loyalty there. If this currency is no longer performing, I remember when Brexit happened, GBP became my favorite currency because there was a lot happening in the UK, Brexit, and so GBP and Euro, they literally became my favorite currencies to trade because of what was happening at that time. Then when Brexit was over, then there was Donald Trump, then USD became my favorite. So it is all about identifying opportunities and doing what works for you and what makes you feel more relaxed and comfortable. It is okay to have your own favorites. So I was just here to share this and just to let you know that it is okay to close your trade at a loss. Closing your trade at a loss that you can recover from the next trade, that is what we need, that is what we want. Otherwise we cannot run away from losses. Even a stop loss does not stop a loss, it controls it. So we cannot run away from losses, but we can always calculate them. And then while we are doing that, because obviously that is the strategy, while you are doing that, do not neglect yourself so that you can be able to say, no, this is it, I'm done. Control yourself. Control yourself, because if you cannot control yourself, the markets are going to mess you up, even with good strategies. So remember to always work on yourself. So what is it that I shared today? 3 psychological effects of keeping and losing trades for too long. The first one, I said you are unable to see other trading opportunities because you are so stuck in this relationship which is currently abusive to you. The second one, I said you become very scared to try again. The third one, I said even if you do try again, it's hard for you to let go because this thing will always follow you. But of course, you can always just let go and work on yourself. So don't neglect yourself and only focus on strategies, because making it in the market requires you more than you require strategies. Thank you so much again, guys, for listening. And hopefully I'll be able to do more. I almost said weekends. I'll be able to do more episodes starting from today. I'm going to try a weekly thing again. If it doesn't work, I'm going to at least try twice a month, so that I can rebuild that consistency again. But thank you so much for the feedback that I've been getting. I did not just desert you or neglect you. I am back here. I was just busy, trying to develop other things. And now that my online school is almost finished, then I can then focus here. Oh, I also have a new page on Facebook. If you are on Facebook, you can follow Forex with Ntombi. This is where I'll be posting, because all these years I've been posting my Forex content on my personal profile. But now I have Forex with Ntombi, and you can then just follow that page, and this is where I will be posting all practical and realistic tips on how to win in the markets. And still, trading psychology is still my main thing. Thank you so much, guys, and to enjoy your Sunday.